Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 4. In this week's podcast, we're going to be doing a Q&A, and we're going to be diving into some questions that we've received about balance and contentment, cheat meals, and how to train for maximum muscle growth. Today, I've got Jamie and Tyler with me. How are you guys?
All good, all good.
All good over here, thank you.
We are on a time limit today, so let's skip what we've done for the week, I think, and let's get straight into the Q&A if you're happy with that.
Yep, all good, listen.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jamie, you've actually had is it a client talk to you about trying to obtain balance and contentment?
He's actually a really good friend, yes, hence why I pushed his question above the queue. He's actually quite a good friend, and he I won't name you, don't worry. And he's struggling to keep that balance between like his hobby of he treats his life like a bodybuilder, although he has the dream to compete, but he's not in a place to at the moment. Also, just trying to keep that balance and just keeping that strictness of a bodybuilder's lifestyle, but also a family man with kids, a wife, and a very stressful job. And it's just more how to keep that compliance with the client, keeping that balance going in, and how a coach keeps someone like that on track without sort of restricting their life too much, if that makes sense. So it's more around that.
So is he a coach himself? Is he a personal trainer? And he's
no.
So he's trying to understand how he strikes a balance within his own life.
No, how would we do it as coaches? So if we had a client like that, what would we do in that scenario? So he's working with me in a couple of months' time. I know him quite well. But at the moment, he's just finishing bits off. But yeah, so I can understand why.
So is this a secret question for us to tell you how to do your job in a couple of months?
Pretty much. Do you know what I mean? Like, we all know I'm just one guy that talks a load of shit, pretty much. Thanks for putting it out, man. Just baiting me to the whole freaking group.
So what are you going to do with him then in 2 months?
Well, don't put it on me. No. So, to be honest, in this situation with me, and as everyone's probably got this already, is I would straight away, a lot of coaches like to do this is what we're going to do. We're going to do X, Y, and Z to get you where you want to be. But I always do the complete opposite. I would say, right, like on their sheet, obviously, when they sign up, they'll go through it anyway. But say they were fresh, I was talking to them. I'd say, right, when can you train? They would tell me, and I'd be like, right, when can you do cardio? They would tell me. When is the time when you relax? They would tell me, and then I literally build it from what they're telling me. And you can tell as a coach straight away if someone's talking shit and making excuses. 9 times out of 10, when you put someone on the spot like that, they're quite honest. And I'm sure Matt gets it all the time, Tyler yourself, but I want to train 7 days a week. No one trains 7 days a week, let's be honest. No one does. But everyone thinks they can. So in that scenario, what I would do is I would tailor what I do and fit it best to their lifestyle, but have it in a way where it's as optimal as can be, because chasing perfection is never going to happen. Yes, if everyone can train at 11 a.m., but like at mid sunrise, and they can train at this time, they can do this many fasting hours a day, this whatever, then yes, it's quote unquote optimal. But most people can't do that. And if you're a coach that runs on a service that is always optimal, you're going to fail very quickly, because not a lot of people can do that, right? Yeah. So you have to adapt your coaching practice to fit someone's lifestyle. So in this scenario, I would go through that. I would run what they are currently doing. How stressful are they finding it? If they were like, I'm training 6 days a week, I'm finding it burning me out, I'd pull them right back to 3 or 4. At the end of the day, with training alone, I call it a stress bucket. All my clients know this. Every time you have a stress element to your life, that fills your bucket. As soon as that tips over, you're under recovering. That simple. So if training 3 days a week is, although you think it's not enough, but that's you right at the maximum of your stress bucket, leave it at that. If you have a really stressful career, 3 kids like myself, you're sleeping 5 hours a night, you're not going to be training 5 days a week. Get over it. Like, you need to accept the fact that training's not you have to dig yourself a hole that you can still get out of. But if you keep trying to force that, in a long-term scenario, you're just going to burn yourself out and cause some health issues in the long run. So that's what I try and do. I would try and do food setup. If like certain foods, say they had digestive issues, I would still try and keep that balance where we need to meet halfway. Where say that someone had like bloating left, right, and center, they had loose stools, digestive health, say that their blood's done with me and they were all over the place. We know that there's going to be some element of restriction and change to fix and address their health markers, right? However, do you really think an off-plan meal with his family, or his or she's family, once a week is really going to set them back that much? And even if it did, mentally, it'd be worth it. So this way you'd find that balance, right? We'll agree on a Friday night, because that's your family night, you will have a free meal. And we won't call it a cheat meal. And we're going to get to that later. You'll have a free meal where you relax with your family. So we've now addressed training that fits their lifestyle. We've addressed the stress load around that, the food that then balance it. And then I would then incorporate just lifestyle strategies like supplementation support, like adaptogens, magnesium, to just combat that stress load. But without me going too much down a rabbit hole, I would basically look at reducing stress as a priority. And then once that is down to a point where everything they're doing is actually doable forever, you've now created a new lifestyle. If you overload them, it's not a lifestyle anymore. It's a temporary phase that they can't do for a long time. So with someone like this, you want to nail almost build a foundation. So if they repeated this process on week and week and week and week, realistically, that's not an issue because it actually fits them. And then if you ever need to turn up the dials when you're dieting, then the sacrifice comes in, but it's a temporary thing. Like say you wanted to do a photo shoot, it'd be a 6-week aggressive prep, and then it goes straight back to that foundation you've already built. Does that make sense?
I think that's a really important point, actually. But you can't look around and see what everyone else is doing, because that's then putting so much stress on yourself. You have to work out at what actually works for yourself in your personal routine and your personal life. Yep. Because some people are more busy than others. And if you overload that bucket, then you're going to feel overwhelmed, and then you've even got the possibility of losing all motivation and interest in the fitness aspect of it altogether.
100%. And look, these people that watch Mr. Olympia and copy them, or Mr. and Mrs. Olympias, you're like, that's their job. Like you work a 9 to 5. I mean, it's like you need to stop copying and start. You need to remember that everyone's unique in their own right. Like your life is different. Like Matt trains twice a day. Hell no, I train 5 times a week and that is it. Like you're lucky if you get me moving furniture after I'm done from the gym. That is me done. Like, but for Matt, he loves it. Do you know what I mean? Everyone has their own thing that they've adapted to. And I do believe there's a genetic aspect to it where people are made, like can react better. And I think we naturally gravitate towards modules that fit us better. So for Matt, it works well. For me, it doesn't. I don't know about you, Tyler, but it would kill me.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to do that split, what you're on at the moment, Matt, just in terms for bodybuilding, to break the body parts up. But for me and my schedule, I've just got no ways of doing that within my schedule. So I myself have to make a schedule what works for me.
Exactly that.
I think if we just go back to that question and think about maybe the first steps as a coach, if you were had a client come to you, what we should all do is as a good coach is almost get them to do you need to do some kind of planning in the very beginning. So essentially the first step is to understand why are they coming to you, you know, and what is the goal, what are the time frames they want to achieve these things, and then within that plan, then you start to look at their lifestyle and see what is achievable with that lifestyle. So, you know, if someone says to you, you know, I want to get on stage in 12 weeks, you know, physically they may be able to, because it might only be, you know, physically 12 weeks out. But if they work a 12-hour shift, have to take the kids to the school and have to do all this, do that, then there are environmental factors, life factors that are going to get in the way of that. Mm-hmm. Other things as well, depending on the goal. You know, if I talk about a photo shoot or getting on stage or anything like that, there's cost involved as well. So a lot of people dive into things and go, I've got this great idea, I want to get on stage. Okay. And then, you know, they go to a coach and say, can you prep me? And the coach dives in and starts prepping them and starts making them lose weight and saying, you've got to train 5 days a week, you've got to go on this many calories, etc., etc. But they haven't took on their lifestyle, current lifestyle. Can they afford this thing as well? So you've got to literally plan this out like a project manager. You've got to say, you know, and the questions, ask relevant questions like you said, Jamie, like how many times can you train, you know, in a
openly
week?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, things like because you might have a job where, you know, there's things like you can't eat at your desk in a job, and so you've literally got a 15-minute break in between a 10-hour shift, and you know, again, how do you prep for a show when you can only eat for 15 minutes in 10 hours and stuff? It becomes difficult then. You can't just put an cookie cutter plan on top of them. It's got to be bespoke to that client, the goals and needs. And I think, you know, that's where you start to try to find a balance. And then when you take all these things on board, you know, that goal that they had, once you start to really dive into it and talk to them about it, and this should be all in the first consultations, really, before you even execute anything. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have gone past this point. The client and yourself should have confidence around whether you can achieve that goal at that time, and that they've budgeted for it as well. And then you'll be able to say, okay, so based on what we've talked about, it'll mean in the time frame you're going to have to train this many times. You know, this is an idea of what we're going to be doing nutritionally. Yeah, you can have free meals the weekend, or we're going to work on a flexible plan, or whatever it is. There are ways around it, but obviously there are unrealistic goals. And I think Tyler, if I remember, had an unrealistic goal when she first wanted to compete, or the very first time she walked into the gym and said, I want to compete. And, you know, it took you, I think, the following year to actually get on stage. So I think the key as a coach, really, and I think that's what the question was, how does a coach obtain balance and contentment? You've got to do that in the beginning.
You set your grounds as a coach, the first thing you talk to them. I don't know about you guys, but I see it as you have 2 weeks to earn that client's trust, well, a month max. You have a month to earn that. If you don't get it, or if that person doesn't pull their weight, or you don't pull your weight, it's never going to be successful. You need to earn that person's trust, and they don't have to trust you 100% from the get-go, because some people, you have to earn that too, no matter how famous you are or what you do. But I do believe that you need to, like your questionnaire, your part Q, if you want to call it that, like the initial phone call. Like I do a phone call, which has a questionnaire, then a video call, which has a questionnaire, then they sign up, because I need to make sure all that data is nailed, and that person is going to fit my structure as much as I'm going to fit theirs. Because if, like we're going to get into cheat meals in a minute. If someone comes to me when I want a cheat meal every week and they had that mindset where they have to have it, we probably wouldn't get on, because we'll go through that in a minute. But yeah, do you see what I mean? So I do think you need to tailor the individual that comes to you needs to make sure they appreciate your like morals, I suppose, and also your thought process. And also they have to respect you and trust your judgment. If you say, no, that's not going to happen, and they don't agree with you, then that's the first sign of a relationship that's not going to work, you know?
Yeah, I think if we dig a bit deeper as well into the balance aspect, you know, when we look at balance, you know, what is balance? What do we need in there? We need, if you're a family person, you need time with family. You need time, obviously, for work. But you need time for yourself, which could then be related into your training. And you also need time for rest and recovery as well. And there could be other things involved in that, but they're, you know, 4 main things that you're going to need to maintain some level amount of balance within a fitness journey, aren't you?
You also have to remember that there is sacrifice to a transformation that is beyond the norms of average. There's always going to be an element of sacrifice. You can't, like when people, like you see coaches that go, oh, I give my clients pizza every week. And I'm like, well, you're giving the wrong fucking message. Like, yes, they might have one every other then, but you need to make sure it fits that person. And again, they're trying to feed on that person wanting the easy route, and they pretend they've got the answer to give them that easy route, that kind of thing, right? But again, you have to remember that even if you want balance to us means 1 or 2 meals off a week. Balance to a person that has no idea could mean you eat shit every night, but the rest of the meals are good, which probably wouldn't work, you know? And
you mentioned it again before, Jamie, about balance is individual.
Yes.
Based on the circumstances and the goal that you've chosen. So, you know, if you've chosen to do some extreme goal, then your balance is going to be very finite. It's going to, you know, you are going to have to sacrifice certain things. So again, it's about how you perceive balance. Now, if you do have a family, and family life is important, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's categorically is important, because we're all family people on this podcast, and it is extremely important. But you know, you need to choose your goals wisely. You know, so you can't expect a coach to give you balance to something that's impossible to balance. And if you've chosen an extreme goal, and it requires the amount of effort that you can't commit to. So there is that as well. And I think that's in the beginning where you do say, do you understand that this commitment is required in order to achieve this goal, and there are sacrifices that need to take place. So the word balance is potentially the wrong word, because if we are talking about a lifestyle and wanting to be fit, eat healthy, you know, and go to the gym, then we can strike a balance there, because that is balance. It's a lifestyle, and eating healthily, being able to train and or exercise, and whatever you feel is the right exercise for you. That is a balance, and that's an easy balance. No one should have an excuse not to be able to go walking for 20 minutes a day, or you know, find the time to do some form of exercise or eat healthily. So there's a balance there that can be struck. But as soon as you start to pick a goal, and the harder or more extreme that goal becomes, then there is an you know, the balance becomes offsided somewhat, and then that's where the challenge from a coach comes, is how do you make it easier for that person in these extreme circumstances? I think that's the challenge from a coach, I would imagine.
No, yeah, and again, in that position, it's the coach's role, and this is why you should never coach yourself, that non-emotional attachment to the goal. So, for example, if someone comes to me and is like, I want to have a photo shoot in 12 weeks, yet they were like, right, can I have this off-plan meal on Thursday and Saturday? And obviously what I do when I look into health and stuff, say I noticed there was inflammatory markers going on, I would have to be that dick to say no. Like, and I'm like, I know it's upsetting, I get it, but you've given me this goal and you've literally hired me to get you there. For that, unfortunately for you, you're just not digesting those foods well. We could play the role of trying other foods, but if they trigger you, we're wasting weeks every time that happens. And inflammatory markers can lead to water retention, weight fluctuations. It can set you back. Like, again, it's not worth it if you have a short-term goal. However, if you're someone that's gone, I want to compete, but I want to give it a good year so I can build that lifestyle up, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. You could have that meal once a week. It wouldn't be an issue. Again, it depends on you. Good example here actually is, I'll probably be talking about this more next week. But you know, the 4-week experiment I've been doing. So my mold test come back, and it was 6 weeks delayed because of COVID. Another reason to hate that thing. And my mold's still around. So my coach literally said today, we might have to continue this. And you know what? I look very lean right now. I'm quite happy with how lean I am compared to being dad bod 4 weeks ago. However, I pulled the plug and said no. And this is the first time ever I've said no, because my wife and kids, I've got twins now. And it's not like me having abs or me pushing this further. I would rather do that balanced approach where I don't look as lean for the fucking shots I'm going to do. I don't really care. But it does mean I get my family meals back. So for me, that is a balance. So twice a week now, I'm having a family meal. Could it feed mold? Could it trigger inflammatory responses? Yeah, but I would much rather that one instance for me to continue. Like, these 4 weeks have not been fun. I will go in detail more on another podcast. They haven't been fun at all because my health hit me back quite hard. But to drag that on just for the sake of a goal that doesn't really exist, like there's no photo shoot, there's nothing, you know? So I do believe, and I'm very goal driven. So I said 4 weeks for a reason, and it's done, you know? So even coaches have that mindset. Huh?
Take that seat back and just reassess where you currently are and assess, you know, is this goal important to where I'm actually heading?
Yeah.
If it isn't, if that goal isn't important, then you do just need to take a step back and look at where you need to move to next.
Well, because I would say, go on, sorry.
If you carried on pushing towards that goal, Jamie, you will have probably not been fulfilled in how you were feeling, because you'll have felt like you were lacking towards your twins.
Wait, I went to Bromley with my wife today because we're going to the Fit Expo tomorrow, people, and I live in vests and shorts. I literally had to go and buy t-shirts. My wife was like, what are you actually going to wear? I was like, I don't know. And I literally had to panic and go buy shit today. My wife went and had a calf and went to a really nice calf we go to. I sat there with my fucking bottle of electrolytes. And I was like, this isn't, like, a year ago, I would have gone, that's normal. But for me now, this is where priorities change. All three of us have got very lean. All three of us know that doesn't make you happy. seeing me and my wife having a nice lunch, playing with our twins in the cafe while my son's at nursery and stuff like that, that's happiness to me now. Last year, yes, looking in the mirror and having abs was great at the time, but it's temporary and it's not worth it. And we all know coaches that are good all year round usually have issues or great genetics, one or the other. So when you actually get to that point, you have the right to then say abs don't make you happy. And in my opinion, as long as my business is doing well and I am a role model to my clients, that's all that matters. Like, I'm not going back to where I was 5 weeks ago, because obviously that was proper twin mode activated inflamed Jamie. But now I've got this back, I'm just going to maintain it and go from there. And this is where people have to realize chasing an extreme goal has consequences. It always does. There's an element of sacrifice, and the more people in your circle, the more people will leave it if you push it too far. And it can happen very easily, especially if health issues are concerned, because that makes you a moody prick at times.
I think the other topic parallel to this is choosing the right goals, isn't it?
Exactly.
I think many people choose the wrong goal, and then obviously you can't find balance. But the pursuit of the goal then creates issues, family issues, or whatever issues, like social breakups, all kinds of things. So again, it's difficult for a coach. Personally, as a coach, with some clients, I get to know them well and become friends with them. But others, it is a non-emotional attachment. It's a professional role, and you don't get to hear what happens in the background. And if they're telling you that's what they want to do, and the risks they're prepared to take, then it's my aim as a coach to succeed in that goal. That's what they're paying me for, obviously without with due care and attention to their health at all time. But yeah, that's my role, is to give them a result. But if the consequence to that is they chose a wrong goal, and the marriage breaks up or whatever happens, that's difficult for a coach to manage. So it has to go back, and the probably primary, the first thing that should take place is making sure that you understand the why and understand the reason why you're pursuing this goal, and is it worth it?
This is why it annoys me when these coaches just sign up anyone. But everything we just discussed should be identified in the very first 2 times you talk. I don't believe you should take anyone on as a client until you spoke to them twice, unless you know them. Because you need to understand their goals, their mindset, because they could say to you, when you compete in 12 weeks, and then the next time you talk to them, their mind's changed, and you can tell straight away that it's not, they watched a freaking Generation Iron film. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's very easy, and people that don't understand the world are very easily led up in it also. And again, it's the coach's job to serve that person. And even if that means don't take the person on because they're not right and it's not the right thing to do, there's it's not just about take the person's money, it's about help the individual. And if you're the person that gives them the wake-up call they don't want but they need, I would rather that than take them on and destroy their life for 12 weeks because they wanted to pay you some money for it, Yeah. And again, and I would actually say that money they pay you, no matter how much it is, if you have a conscience, will not be worth it if you did that to them at the end. So this is where it's where the industry splits in half. There's the very positive, lovely side of it, and then there's the poisonous, negative side to it, which you'll be very careful. It's like anything in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The shadow world of fitness.
Should we hit question number 2 now?
Yeah.
That was ages on one.
So the question number 2, as I've gotten written down, is cheat meals and effects when training. What is too much when having a cheat meal? And what is too much when having a cheat meal? So I know, Jamie, the word cheat
is a trigger
attached to meal is a trigger for you. So let's start on Jamie, if you pick this up first.
Okay, so I've had eating disorders. I've been overweight. I've been skinny fat. I was stage 1 anorexic, mentally, not physically, because I was skinny fat. So all those things happened. And it was that mindset that did it. So if ask any client, I'm telling you now, any of my clients can easily vouch for this. If anyone ever says, quick question, what are your thoughts on cheat meals? Mate, they get a full 5-minute voice note. So let's be honest, the word cheat, as most of you must know if you listen to the podcast now, I'm very mental with this stuff. The word cheat is a negative thing. So if I cheat on my wife, I'm a scumbag. I've done something wrong. If I cheat on a game with my son, he deserves to lose, but I still shouldn't do it. If I cheat playing a sport, I've cheated. If I, you like, do you know what I mean? There is a negative aspect to the word cheat. So you're dieting, you're working, you're doing whatever you want, and you're working towards that goal that we've just set. You've done it all properly, like we just said, and you say to your coach, I've had a cheat. So there's a cheat, basically, in a nutshell. Cheat normally means you've had something off plan that doesn't fit the rigid plan you've been given or provided with, right? And it's usually an extreme goal. That's why the plan's so rigid, which is actually your fault in the long run for wanting that in the first place. So if you had a rigid plan and you had a cheat meal, you've then just told that coach you've done something bad. Now, if you're someone that is dieted for 3 days, and you had no idea what dieting actually was, and then you felt that you needed a cheat meal, you're going to get a cold verbal slap in the face from your coach to say, grow up, like you don't need a cheat meal. Cheat meals for the last however many years has got you to where you are. But the idea of it is that is a negative scenario you just told your coach, and you're telling them that you've done something bad. Now, if it was, say we actually spoke about this off air, so Matt was saying, say, and again, you can pick this up if you want to, Matt, but say you were dieting. I personally give diet breaks or refeed days or refeed days more than one, okay? I don't believe one refeed day is enough if you've done it long enough, okay? Usually it's 2 or 3, for honesty. Again, you need the markers to do this. But that refeed day, theoretically, should just be more carbs than you usually have. Now, if you're someone that is very lean and you have the muscle glycogen space, you can then get away with more easy digestible carbs, which usually are more fun. Like for me, it's rice flakes. That's not really fun. Other people, it can be bagels, okay? But that is not, again, a cheat meal. This for a purpose. You're replenishing, you're refeeding, you're having a diet break. But again, these aren't negative terms. But you could easily say, I need to have a cheat meal, which basically means go eat shit for a day because you feel like shit. Whereas that can actually even be flipped on its head and actually be a good thing, because we were speaking earlier about sodium retention. You could be doing a complete calorie dense meal in a short scenario. So even that thing that you've labeled a cheat meal could actually be used beneficially if it goes well. But again, there's no need to call it a cheat meal. All you need to call it is an off. I personally like the term off-plan meal or a free meal. I like the term free meal because that actually gives you the mental aspect that the stress is off your head. There's nothing to worry about and you're relaxing. Like you don't go on holiday and go out a cheat meal every day to your coach, do you? You get free meals because you're on holiday. It's the same thing. But we just, again, I blame The Rock for this. And if he comes at me and sues me, come at me, bro. Because he was the one that did that pancake picture, wasn't he? And that's when the cheat meal thing come along, because that guy gets away with it and not a lot of people do. But I'm going on a tangent here and I probably lost the actual subject. But basically, cheat meals are not, just call them a free meal. Just literally you have to call them. Don't put an emotional attachment to it. It's food and there's a social aspect and a health aspect and a performance aspect to it. Does that make sense, or have I just rabbited on for nothing?
No. It's that I use the terminology free meal. There is a mindset to this, and if using the word cheat, it implies the wrong thing. So totally agree with you. To try and answer the question, then, if we forget the semantics in it, that they've used the terminology cheat meal, and my clients, one of my clients has asked a question herself around, and she's used the terminology cheat meal herself, but I know that doesn't mean what she thinks it means. But yeah, so if we try and answer the question, cheat meals and their effects when training. So it's difficult to answer this, because if they are referring to a cheat meal as literally, blowing all the restrictions on a diet, going completely off plan, and their effects on training. If it's specific to training, I don't think it'll have an effect on training personally. From a calorie perspective, if anything, it might make you stronger because you've got more energy. It might have an impact on inflammation, upset stomach. It might have an implication on water retention and the way you look. But effects when training, you look at a powerlifter who's not really concerned about, they're not concerned about the way they look. I would imagine the diet is made up of cheat meals.
Eddie Hall's diet was a fry up every twice every morning, wasn't it, or something like that? Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, if you were an athlete and you wanted to put the best fuel in your body for training performance, then you're not going to eat, a fry up every single day, and you're not going to eat, trans fats and simple sugars and constantly every day, depending on the sport you're doing. So there are some effects, but if we're talking about weight training, I think it's the question isn't really specific enough.
I find, Jamie, if you've been eating very clean for quite a long period of time, and then you go and have a cheat meal or even a cheat day, and then the next day you can feel quite uncomfortable and energy levels can actually be lower. So it can sometimes have a detrimental effect on training the next day. It might do the complete opposite, even though you've got extra calories, extra carbs for fuel. But your body's like, what have you done? Where's the nutrition? And it can make you feel almost like a food coma, which can be quite difficult to...
No, that's the thing. What people forget, right, is people see energy as just what we're doing. Yeah. Your body's processes require energy. So digesting food is actually incredibly energy demanding. People don't realize that it takes like 3 to 4 days in a healthy individual for something you eat to come out your ass in the toilet. People think if they poo 2 hours after eating, that's the food they've just eaten. That's the food you ate. Well, it should be the food you ate 4 days ago. However, it can definitely be a different story to that, believe me. So imagine how much work that you don't sit there and go, right, I'm going to consciously contract my small intestine now and squeeze that stuff through me and absorb the nutrients through my gut lining into my bloodstream. You just sit there and carry on watching Netflix, So you don't realize how much this costs. So those people that have a meal an hour before they train, you've just reduced your numbers in your logbook, because half your energy is going to the food, the other half is going to what you're trying to do. You've just, again, if you're training, that's one good example. If you're training and you've eaten within realistically a 3-hour window, your stomach's still holding that food. And again, this is why the term shit yourself's there, right? If a lion is chasing you, the term shit yourself is there because the body can't do what you're trying to get it to do because it's focusing on survival. It's a stress response, going very hippie here. And your body you wouldn't digest it. It wouldn't have time to leak the nutrients off it. Just chuck it out your ass or up your throat and then you throw it up. That's why when you're stressed and you eat, you throw up. That's why. And
plus, you wouldn't taste as nice as a lion if you were covered in shit.
Exactly. Think of the lion, right? And but to go on to your question though, Tyler, about the bang on. Anyone that's had digestive issues, anyone on here that has IBS, which is bullshit term for there's something wrong with you that doctors don't know, in my opinion, obviously. If you have that and you say you went and you had a quote unquote off a free planned meal and it did not go down well, that will affect if you didn't digest well, that will drain your energy because your body's now got to work even harder to move that food along. And because it can't digest it, because there's a bacterial issue and it gets stuck, that will require even more energy to push through. And if you ever have a meal, like say you went and had a burger and chips and you needed to nap within an hour, or you bloated, or you had a headache, or you felt a bit dizzy, anything, even loose stools, whatever happens, that is a negative response that will correlate to your immune system, your digestive function, and your gut is your second brain. Like a lot of your happy hormones created in your gut, your serotonin levels, right? So if you piss your gut off, you piss your brain off. That simple. So if I was to, we've got a shoot tomorrow at the gym we're going to, which we'll speak about in a second. And I could easily, my thing's over tomorrow morning, right? And I wanted to have a lunch with my wife, but I'm so sensitive to everything, even fucking air, that I won't. We're going out for dinner Friday night, right? I won't do it because if I did, I'd come to that shoot. You guys would be training. I'd be sleeping in the corner. I know for a fact that could happen. And again, this is where you just have to be realistic. So again, going back to that off-plan meal, if you have the time to experiment to see what foods sit well, then yeah, go for it. But if you don't, I personally wouldn't risk it. Or I would just increase the carbs that you already do know sit well. No, it's not a sexy answer, but it may be the answer you need.
Well, so how would we actually help this person here then? So the person's want to know what is too much when having a cheat meal, because that's difficult without knowing training.
Yeah, it's too much context. Yeah.
Well, I can answer this because the person that's asked this and the terminology that they're using, they're actually wanting to understand how much they can get away with before it has a negative effect. So the word cheat is relevant in this question because they are trying to cheat.
They're trying to get away with something.
Yeah. So there is a simple answer to this. Basically, if your goal is fat loss, because most people's goal is some kind of balance, fat muscle balance. So when you're talking about a cheat meal, a lot of people, they make the mistake of they follow a strict macro plan throughout the week, or a flexible food plan, but within a strict macro and calorie amount. And then when it comes to the weekend, they then eat whatever they fancy because they've been good all week. And then you think, well, I've been good all week, and now I can have a cheat day, cheat weekend, cheat whatever it is.
Well, like when they say they deserve a treat, like they're a dog. Sorry,
it's or a treat meal.
Yeah.
And then what happens is basically, if you work it out, if their goal was fat loss, or even let's say fat loss. Let's keep it to fat loss. If the goal is fat loss, then to maintain the level of fat loss, they need to be within a certain calorie quota per day or per week. If you add it up per week and divide by 7, it gives you that quota. So if at the weekend they then go out with naan and have tea and cakes and scones and cream cakes and everything.
Tea and scones.
Yeah. And then, and their calories are 2 times or even 3 times the amount that they were eating on any day prior. When you do the maths, all you've got to do is do the maths. It's really
they just
simple.
neglected their deficit through the whole week of hard work.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's essentially the answer. Is actually the person that's asked this question, if they record what they ate, so say if they went out, and you can do it on MyFitnessPal or Jamie's Excel spreadsheet.
Wait, don't. I'm fucking proud of this thing. Don't. I love this thing.
But everyone knows MyFitnessPal. If you're following a diet from somebody, and then you decide to have a cheat meal, a cheat day, a cheat weekend, track all that food, and add up the calories.
It makes you realise how much a tea and scone and some jam. No, sorry, the cream, then the jam, because that's how it goes. How much that adds up to, right?
Yeah, and then add it all up, and so the whole week's total, and then divide that by 7, and then you'll find out how much over your daily quota you've gone.
Just make sure you got nothing glass in your hand because you will lob it.
And that's too much for a cheat meal. And, essentially, you can stick within your macros on a free meal.
Yeah,
a free meal of choice can still be, a cake if you fancied it, a burger and chips if you fancied it. But if it fits in that macros and you haven't gone over your calories and your goal is to lose weight, then that's a free meal that's still within your quota, and you're still going to be successful at your goal. So anything over that, then it is too much.
To give this person a nice tip that I personally use, because I look into how foods react very much so. Almost like everyone I work with, I look into how foods react, right? How it sits for that individual, like personally. I actually have an off-plan sheet. So if someone fancies a pizza, because some clients love pizza, I would much rather than go down to a supermarket and get a Pizza Express pizza that you can get than Domino's. And that might still react to them, but I guarantee you the vegetables load will be a lot less, the inflammatory signals will be a lot less, that sort of stuff, right? Same with ice cream, like the classic Oppo or the classic Halo Top. Yes, they have sweeteners in that can trigger histamine. However, I'd much rather do that than have a whole tub of Ben and Jerry's. Like have backups. Like, you're not a robot. Like when I have my ice cream with my son, the minute this is over and I'm back to eating normal, I'll have my weekly Oppo ice cream with my son. That doesn't sit well for me, I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's 200 calories. Like, it's better than a fucking Ben and Jerry's. Do you know what I mean? And again, it's being sensible and realizing that you're not a robot. Like, this isn't your career. So balance it the best you can. But I would always say, try your best to go for foods that digest well, because they're only going to bite you in the arse, quite literally, in the long run when you're on the toilet.
I think when choosing a refeed, for me, I like to choose things that's going to help enhance my performance at the gym. So something like a steak and sweet potato fries, or something that's actually going to benefit me and my health. I think they're always good options to choose from too. You know, there's nothing wrong with having something completely off plan and having something that can fit in your calories and your macros as well. But also when looking at refeeds, it's good to get some good sources in there as well, because it's going to do your body so well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you've just talked, so you use the terminology refeed, which is slightly different in the sense that a refeed should have a meaning in the sense that the refeed is trying to achieve a specific goal, whereas a free meal is your a free meal is you're following a plan. But once a week, you're allowed to go out with friends. You're allowed to sit at the table with your wife and eat what they're eating. It gives you that ability to be able to be free with your choice. A refeed is a strategic meal planned to, you know, for whatever reason by that coach. It could be that you're dropping weight rapidly too much, and the choice is to refeed. You know, it could be that you're getting ready for comp and you're really, really flat and you require some fullness. So, you know, a refeed is required to replace that glycogen. And I think that's why
could even be water retention is too high and the person's too stressed, and the carb load will help improve serotonin. It can be so many different things, right?
Yeah, exactly. So a refeed does mean something slightly different than the free meal, which we were talking about.
Refeed is usually for athletes. Diet breaks are usually for Gen Pop. Not always. That's not a blanket statement, but usually, if a refeed normally means you have more food of what you already have, which Gen Pop usually, like the everyday person, normally wants something new and nice. So it all depends on the individual, right? I like diet breaks though. I do like diet breaks. I think they're quite good.
So I've got on the cheat meal, in quote unquote, I've got some questions from my client. She won't mind me saying her name, Agatha. And
no pressure.
What she's asking for is basically, are we aware of the best substitute for a sugar? So less chemical, that wouldn't spike your blood sugar levels, like stevia or erythritol.
Mm-hmm.
She uses a sweetener drop, and she's wondering if there's something better out there. And then she says, and it'd be good if we could cover some tips and tricks to help stop cravings that prevent you from maybe going on to cheat. You know, for example, low calorie sauces like these 0-cal sauces and sweeteners, are they harmful? Is it worth consuming them? You know, so there's a good little topic there to talk about. I knew Jamie would laugh, so
your client's gonna hate me.
I'm quite a fan of the low calorie sauces, because they have been pretty much life-saving throughout bodybuilding preps. No, you know, it makes it so much easier to be able to just have that little bit of 5 calories of heaven on on some chicken, or it just helps to stop that craving of sugar and wanting something a bit more tastier. So I'm actually a fan of this one, Jamie.
No, so this is what I would start. So what I'm about to say is very out there. So what I would like to start this with, I feel bad, I feel like I'm hijacking the podcast today, but I would like to start this with, it depends on the person's situation. If you're someone that's 2 weeks out from prep on a show and you're craving food because you can't sleep, you're too stressed, your body's fat, it's depleted, this is very different to someone that's been put on a new plan for 2 weeks and they're getting sugar cravings because you're having a packet of biscuits every night. It's very different, okay? So I'm referring more to that person, not the comp prep athlete. So I actually had this with a client who actually might be listening to this. I won't name you though, because I'm not a mean coach like that. So cravings. I have a story. So I have this is a very, the lady doesn't let me mention her name because she wants to wait till the end results happened. I had a lady that craved foods all the time. She was in lockdown. She was eating 3,500 calories a day, and she is your average height female. She's not some massive bodybuilder. She's heavily stressed. 3,500 calories a day on a rest day, didn't want to train because the shed was annoying her and she didn't want to eat. And then when she hit that, she could still happily eat. I was like, you are not being fed. If you still crave sugar on these foods that you're having, there's a parasite, 100%. Because if you have bacterial issues, if you have parasites, stuff like that. By the way, I'm not a doctor. I'm just going to put a disclaimer in it. Everything I say from here on is just opinion. Got that in there. You have something that you're feeding. Okay, you're feeding something that's feeding before you are, and these things feed on sugars. Okay, and long story short, months and months and months went on. I refused to increase her calories anymore. That was no way in shape or form this is healthy. And she was one of the first people to run bloods with me. And when I started doing blood work analysis, 6 months ago now, we ran bloods, you name it, every single thing, monocytes, liver inflammation, organ inflammation, leaky gut, parasites, mold, everything was there. Okay. We ran, I think I told this story on the second podcast, maybe. We ran a protocol using this. Oh, no, I'm not going to show it because everyone's going to go and buy it. It's a cleansing, I don't know how to use that word. It's a fiber drink that's not really fiber, it's more antimicrobial herbs, loads in one bit of powder. It tastes vile, you will throw up if you drink it, believe me. She ran that for 5 days. Let's just say the bugger called Colin, we called it Colin, fell out. You heard fell out. Yeah. Since then, this lady couldn't eat a pack of blueberries. She tried blueberries and had itchy skin everywhere. Broccoli caused itchy skin, fatigue, you name it, histamine levels sensitive as ever. She messaged me today even, saying that she's finally had a full bowl of blackberries. I have no idea why I can't stand blackberries, but that's what she chose. I said choose pineapple, but she didn't want that. And nothing happened. And to this day, zero cravings. She now has steak and chips on the weekend. She can now live a nice, quote unquote, balanced life. So I'm a big believer, if you are not at that extreme end, hence this story, and you have cravings, there is a mental aspect to it. I'm not denying that. But if you have cravings and you eat an apple and within 20 minutes it goes, it was probably hunger. If you have intense cravings and even an apple doesn't soothe it, in my opinion, there's something internal. There's a health issue that's in there. And this is where people that try and diet and fall off, quote unquote, the wagon, it's very much likely there's some sort of issue. And people will be surprised how common issues like this are. I have a mold exposure, as everyone knows, anyone that listens to me ever knows. I crave, if I have one bit of sugar, I can't stop. Hence why I make sure I don't put it in my diet, because it does not go down well for me. Because again, if you feed it, you'll crave more and more, and cravings will go through the roof. So those artificial 0 calorie things, I've actually had harm to my athletes in the past. One of them, in their previous prep of a previous coach, her legs were very inflamed. And we had to pull a few food options. I won't say them because I don't want people thinking they're the devil. We pulled them out. And then that 0 calorie jelly shit, we pulled that out, and then everything got better. Our energy levels went through the roof. I personally believe if you respond badly to sweeteners, you have histamine issues. The only things I've ever seen them trigger is an immune response, which is usually histamine driven, like a hyperactive immune system, which does obviously correlate to gut health. Stevia, though, which your client asked, it is a natural sweetener, obviously. The only thing I've found with stevia, which is a bit of a bugger, is it's so much more potent and it can really upset the GI tract. So artificial sweeteners can trigger the immune system. Stevia in hefty doses, like some whey proteins have it, can really wreck the GI tract and cause you to have bloating and loose stools. So you have to weigh up which one's better. I'm not gonna lie, I personally would go for organic maple syrup or organic honey, but obviously that's gonna have a calorie content. So it depends on how you're going to do this. Does that help the answer at all? Or
yeah,
I just sounded like a massive hippie with like a...
No. I think it's important. I think it's important because Tyler's gone and said from her own experience that she's found these really useful. And, you know, she's right in the sense that when you're dieting and you just want a little bit of flavor, these things are really useful just to give a little bit of flavor and almost cancel that desire to go and raid the cupboard or eat something that, you know, comes with a calorie price. And then obviously you're talking about potential negative outcomes of, you know, the processed sweetener or sweeteners, inflammation, and even like stevia on the gut. So there's a balance there. Well, there's not a balance. There's something to think about. The question for me would be: so if I'm in show prep I'm wanting to lose weight, and I'm getting these urges to have a bit of, for me, if we're just talking calories, there's no calories in this 0-calorie sauce. I'm cool with this. But if it's going to cause inflammation or gut issues, is that then going to have a negative response on my ability to mobilize fat? Do you know what I mean? So, and that's the key. If my goal is to get on stage and mobilize fat, but these 0-calorie sources are potentially in the long run having a negative impact on my ability to mobilize fat, then I wouldn't put them in. And 100%. I think that's where you've got to then again think long and hard about what you're doing, and that's some of the sacrifices that you've got to do. Ultimately, the key is to eat everything natural.
Honestly, it always is. It really is.
Because you can use herbs and spices really well, and actually to your advantage.
Absolutely.
For reasons, and they in themselves can give so much flavour to food.
Well, say you had digestive issues, fresh oregano and fresh basil are antimicrobial. So say you had say there was a parasite, nuke your food of proper oregano and basil, mate, that in itself can kill a lot of bad shit.
I'm conscious of the time here, so I've got a neutral kind of opinion on this, in the sense that
I have one more at the end. Let me have one more rant at the end.
Okay. So as a coach, I've got a neutral opinion on it, in the sense that if someone really needs it, then I'm kind of, do it. But if looking at all the markers and persistence and we're not getting results, then that's potentially one of the things that I look at and say, if you've got these in on a daily basis, we're going to have to pull them out and see if that has an impact. So I'm not going to say to someone, you cannot have your 0-cal tomato sauce or caramel, whatever you want, because that comes down to their balance, and the balance we were talking about before. And if that's how they find a balance, then fine. But if it's starting to show a negative response to our goal, then I'd pull it out. Just a quick tip. She asked for tips. I don't have those 0-calorie sauces. There's one caramel stevia-based syrup that Aldi do, and I can't remember the name of it, which is, I just have a couple of drops in a coffee every now and again. But my tip for me when I'm feeling hungry is I have tea, like a flavored tea, or a herbal tea or green tea.
Herbal tea.
I find that they kind of null and void any kind of cravings that I've got. And coffee as well is a good kind of taste bud neutralizer. And herbal teas, I find, are the things that they keep me full up for a little while, and they take that mind off wanting the food. So that's my tip, for me personally, that I use.
One more bit that could hopefully help this individual: listen to your body. We are amazing at having issues, but we are shit at listening to what the body's trying to tell us. And the body can't talk, right? So it talks in symptoms. If you crave a certain food, it usually is a deficiency or an issue. So if you crave chocolate and your thing is chocolate, it usually is magnesium deficiency. It's incredibly common. If you crave salt and vinegar crisps, you've probably got burnt out adrenal function, and salt helps nurture the adrenal gland. So you're probably really stressed out, in other words. So simply by putting some salt in your coffee in the morning, which I do, not gonna lie to you, or some salt in water in the morning could actually fix that. So you have to, like, the body gives you signals. If you're craving something very specific, you usually are deficient in something in that food, and your body has almost developed a relationship with that because that's your common go-to for that. So if you had dark chocolate all the time, your body would see magnesium as dark chocolate. Do you see what I mean? So if someone craves chocolate all the time, honestly, in my opinion, take magnesium glycinate, citrate if you're constipated, 10 milligrams per kilo. If those cravings disappear, it was magnesium and stress deficiency, which is incredibly common. That's one thing.
Okay, so I know Tyler's got to go. So we did have another question, which we'll pick up next week, about how to train for maximum muscle growth.
Yes.
I just want to finish off quickly then, Tyler, if you've just got a minute or two, we'll close the podcast while you're on. This time tomorrow, we should all be in Liverpool. And this podcast will be going live at some point tomorrow whilst we're all on our way to the FitX Expo. And tomorrow night, or tonight, if you're listening to the podcast on Friday, we will be all training at Arnold's gym.
Very excited.
Really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we have got official Alice Black covering us for video and photographs. So there's going to be lots of coverage of the Mind Muscle HQ crew.
We've got T-shirts and vests. Hopefully they fit us.
What we're training, guys? What we're training?
Upper body, we said, because you all wimped out on legs.
Mate, I'm not training legs on standing up for 2 days. I don't care.
I did say you all wimped out, but actually it was Jamie who wimped out.
It was me. I will happily say it was me.
I was quite happy to train them legs. Jamie, come on, man up.
And honestly, when you said I am not doing that. We'll just be like, we're right by a kitchen on our store. I won't be able to walk to it. Do you know what I mean? I need to get food.
So I know we need to go, so we'll wrap up. So next week's topic, let's cover that question that we missed off. And also let's talk about the expo and what happened there, about Arnold's gym and our experience at the gym. And let's just cover that off. I think that'll probably be enough. And hopefully we're going to meet lots of interesting people. And actually, for everyone listening, we've never met ourselves. It's the first time that the team is getting together.
We might freaking hate each other. This could be the last podcast.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the whole weekend. So
yeah, we're at stand 134. So make sure you come over and see us. We have got a challenge running, a little competition over the weekend where you can win a month's supply of subs through Strom. So get yourselves down, come and see us, and we're really looking forward to meeting you all.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks for listening, guys. We'll speak to you next week.
Cheers, guys.
See you, bye.